How's it going, YouTube? Yeah, Pat Mac here, and we are bringing you the power rankings for the TGR Masters League, and I am joined by Incog. You want to say hi, Incog?
Hi, hello, everybody. How's it going?
And we have Miss Mag as well.
What's happening, y'all?
And we're going to be taking a look at these teams, which are... I'm just going to say this straight up. These teams are absolutely insane, and I just want to say like a huge shout out to the mod team for making this happen too. Because our coaches voted for like the most broken Masters format you could ever imagine. They wanted like a mythical mayhem levels of power. They wanted all the like restricted and Ubers mon that you normally get you see in like high tier singles leagues and doubles leagues, and it's insane. So if you followed any of our content before, just know that you're about to see some absolutely insane teams because you know what? That's what the people wanted. So just a little bit about what Masters is for anyone that's new to seeing this particular format from us. Masters is a combination of doubles and singles. So coaches will play one game of doubles, then they'll play one game of singles, and they're going to use the same team for both of those. So same sets, same EV, same items, same everything. And it's absolutely an insane format. So I'm pretty excited about it. And yeah, we're just going to dive in, take a look at these teams, kind of look at it from a doubles perspective and a singles perspective, and it's going to be hella fun. So, and these are going to be in draft order, so we aren't looking at the highest rated teams or lowest rated teams first, just draft order, and then you'll be able to see what each of us thought were the top 3 teams at the very end. All right, let's go and get started. So the first team we have here is the Midland Marowaks, and let's just start it off with doubles first. So Miss Mag, let's go and get your perspective on this team.
All right. So this team is very setup oriented. There is the Alcremie that does decorate. There is Dragon Dance. There's Iron Defense Body Press. There's Combine. There's Nasty Plot. It's very setup oriented. And in doubles, that's great, especially if you have a strong redirector like Overpod Wellspring. Couple that with some really bulky pieces like Mandibuzz, Chestnut, and the Lantern down there in the bottom right. Like, this is a pretty fearsome team. Its only, I would say, weak point really is it leans a little bit more, I would say, heavily into the special offensive side of things, but then like the physical attackers like Overpod and Kieran Black just kind of nuke on that side as well. So I would say overall it's fairly well balanced for a from a doubles perspective.
Okay, and Incog, what do you think about this team from the singles side of things?
Well, you know me, man. I love Kieran Black. If you know anything about me and my channel, BBL, I forget what season, had Kieran Black, and so Galio, and then Pat took it the next time we were available to do it. And let me tell you something, we both did not great. However, that being said, they're good Pokemon. Now, Kieran Black on this team looks amazing, but then you look at the supporting pieces. Lantern's a great switch-in opportunity with Volt Absorb and or Water Absorbing. Being Electric Water is great. You have an even better defensive core when you talk about Glowking and Mandibuzz overall. So as long as you have Kieran Black with a lot of good support, it'll always function really well. And then the rest of this team is just as good, if not just better. Ursaluna, Blood Moon, great Pokemon. You don't really need Trick Room as much as you think you do. You can just run it's a bulky Pokemon, so you can just do a lot of damage overall. I think as well, without even having to say it, Cinderace, Ogerpon, Wellspray, and Goldango are 3 threatening Pokemon that can set up and just do what they have to do, break open the game a little bit. For the said Kieran Black, Chestnut's really good defensively. You definitely need Chestnut. I mean, you have hazards from it. You have hazards overall on this team. Only weak spot is the only one I didn't mention, Alcremie. I think it's an okay Pokemon. Now, if you needed a fairy type, and that's your fairy type of choice, that's fine. I would just be mindful that you probably needed something a bit more offensive, because when you look at this team, or well, even then, I guess Alcremie is pretty good, because they have enough offense and defense on this team, and Alcremie kind of slots into one or both slots. I think it lost Mystical Fire, which was definitely bad, so maybe using it more defensively. But overall, you have hazards, you have offense, you have defense, pretty balanced overall team. I feel like it becomes a little predictable each week, depending on who you fight, on what you bring. But I mean, once again, that could just be my own thinking here, but it's a really good team overall.
Yeah, Incog mentioned that we've both used Kieran Black in the past, and for those that don't know, BBL is a singles league specifically. So, you know, we've had a chance to use this mon, and honestly, like I remember it struggling a bit against grounds. I remember being kind of one of the hard things, or not grounds, steals being one of those hard things that it just wasn't able to deal with particularly well. But I actually really like it for this team because those steel types are not really safe. You know, like they might try to switch in on Goldengo for like Make It Rains. They might try to like, they're just threatened by a lot of these other Pokemon. So like I really like the Ursulin Blood Moon combined with the Kieran Black. I like the Cinderace combined with Kieran Black. I like Chestnut combined with that. You know, just like some of these other mons that can put some pressure on those steel types to break them open so that Kieran can maybe get a Dragon Dance off and then maybe start sweeping from there. So just trying to echo like what's been said, like this team is pretty cool. I think Incog mentioned the Alcremie was a little bit of a weaker pick, and I 100% agree. But I think like the decorate potential seems pretty nice for doubles. It's unfortunately just like a useless move in the singles games though, you know, like it's not going to be able to do anything there because there's no partner, you know, for it to decorate. So very excited to see what Dunn can do with this team though. I think it's pretty cool. And let's go take a look at our next team here, the Milwaukee Sawsbuck. And Incog, what do you think about this team from the singles side?
We'll talk about it more and more in depth with how I ranked every team, but this is one of my favorite teams. I said it before the draft, and I'll say it again. Shadow Rider with Chi-Yu is one of the few things that you have to fear when you look at somebody who can draft it. And let me tell you something, that was clearly drafted here and is meant to do what it has to do. I think the combination having just like those two Pokemon is really, really good. And obviously, I'd be more talking about doubles, but I'm talking about singles, obviously. So from a single standpoint, you have one of the generational talents in Calyrex Shadow. Obviously, if you don't know, it belongs in a tier called Anything Goes, which means that it is one of the most broken Pokemon in this game has ever seen. Has a plethora of just good coverage and can start sweeping. It's Spectre, but with better coverage, as I like to say. So Spectre on crack. You have the ability to bring any mon to really soften up the team. So you have things like the Chi-Yu, the Grimmsnarl, the Glamora for hazards. Guja's a great wall. Thundurus is good overall for paralyzing foes. And then you have like Cyclizar, which, as far as I understand, I'm pretty sure Shed-Tail's banned.
It is, yeah.
So you can just use Cyclizar for just, you know, having a faster U-turn, or even just if you want to bring a shift gear Cyclizar and go crazy. Some people never expect that. They underrate Cyclizar because he is good. The real standouts that aren't going to be used as much, in my humbling opinion, is Crabominable. Hasn't been good for as long as it's existed. It's a funny Pokemon. I like him, but he's probably not going to be brought to a lot of games. And then Thwackey. I mean, Thwacky's cool, but you know, if you really need up that terrain and you really want to try and get a Thwackey sweep, that's cool. But a lot of people are going to be able to resist grass, so it's not really a big deal. And then Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri in singles is good as a rapid spinner, but outside of that, I mean, if you're really that concerned about water moves, I mean, you have Double Dragon, so I don't really see why you need to use Storm Drain Tatsugiri as much. So it's not really a big Pokemon, in my opinion. This team could definitely do with maybe a defensive fairy, in my opinion, or something that would help more structurally with Calyrex Shadow. You might be like, if it's a really good Pokemon, why does it need more, you know, walls for it? Because unfortunately, it has the unfortunateness of being weak to Sucker Punch and other things. So it definitely needs a little bit more support from this team defensively. Like Gujar's good, Screens Grimmsnarl's great, but then that's really it. You need at least like another piece, in my opinion. But overall, this team is probably like one of the top end teams if you can't offensively stop it.
Yeah, definitely agree with that idea. Trying to be able to offensively, like, fight offense and offense against this team is going to be pretty tough. The one downside I'd say to the team is that from a defensive side of things, like in terms of switch-ins from singles, like it's kind of just the Gudra, in my opinion. Grimmsnarl can do some switching in, but there isn't much in the way of walls from this team. And so I think that's like a potential downside, maybe something to consider during transactions. But I really like the double dark types here. like the Grimmsnarl and Chi-Yu, being able to soften up like the opposing dark types that are trying to take on Calyrex, because you only have so much that only so many types that can resist ghost and dark, and then just trying to be able to find something that can check all of those things is pretty difficult. So I really like that combination. I think it's going to be pretty solid for this team, and the double Prankster mons are pretty nice for doubles as well. But to talk more about doubles, Miss Mag, what do you think about this team?
So it's already been said how broken Calyrex Shadow Rider and Chi-Yu is as a combo. That remains pervasive even in doubles. Like the fact that you would have to bring either like basically a normal type, but even a normal type isn't like, yeah, you resist the Astral Barrage, but it doesn't say anything about Calyrex's psychic attacks or Chi-Yu hitting with its stabs either. So I think the pairing is great. I think Grimmsnarl is a natural third mon to go with that, because just having the ability to Prankster screens, to Prankster speed control for Calyrex, to Prankster parting shot to weaken some of those sucker punches, those other dark moves for it. I think it's just fantastic. Despite the fact that Calyrex has a 4x weakness to dark, the base stats are still strong enough for it to not just crumble to every single dark move, and the screens just really help it with its survivability. So I really like that top row. Excellent drafting there. I also like the Gudra paired with this team. As you said, it's very important to have good, strong walls and switch-ins, and it's one of the best ones. It does share some weaknesses with like the Chi-Yu, which is a little bit problematic, but he's also got the Thunderous there for additional Prankster support and as a physical offensive threats. But the rest of the team kind of falls off a little bit after those 5, and that's not necessarily like a bad thing. Like most of the time, I imagine this coach will probably just prep Chi-Yu, Grimmsnarl, and Calyrex to go crazy every week anyway. But I feel like in doubles, because it's a 6v6, it's not like bring 4, bring 6, choose 4. Like someone will have the full brunt of their team to figure out their way around it. And I'm not sure if they have enough answers from the doubles perspective to like pull a game back after, say, Calyrex goes down, or like Chi-Yu goes down a little earlier than anticipated.
Okay, interesting perspective. We'll definitely see how this team does, but Calyrex Shadow is a nightmare to deal with. So, yeah, excited to see how this team does. And the next team we have are the Ohio Arceus, and just from an overall perspective, you can see that this is a very Trick Room focused team. There's a ton of slow mons on this team. There's a ton of bulk. So whereas the last team, we really looked at like how fast the team was, how offensive the team was, how like difficult it was necessarily for them to like potentially switch into opposing attacks. This team is not like that. This team can switch into a ton of different opposing attacks with the general bulk that they have on the team. The potential downside though is that they are a little bit more reliant on Trick Room, or potentially more reliant on Aurora Veil from the Alola Ninetales. Which I think does complement the team pretty well. There's several different setup threats here to help set up Trick Room, or maybe to set up like Sword Stance or bulk ups, or you could even go crazy and do Belly Drum with the Ursaluna. So I like the combination of those mons. Of course, giving the Snow to give a defense boost for Calyrex, Ice is pretty nice here as well. But there is the potential downside, I think, of just the team being a little bit slower. And Trick Room, as it's a little more common in doubles to see it, but in singles, there's some downsides because you set up Trick Room, and on the turn that you set up Trick Room, you're already losing your Trick Room turn. So a potential problem with the team and something to consider down the road. But from a doubles perspective, what do you think of this team, Miss Meg?
From a doubles perspective, it's kind of funny actually. Judging the Calyrexes back to back. So whereas Shadow Rider hits very hard, especially this Ice Rider hits very hard physically, with an ice spread move and whatnot. They chose the Ursaluna that also hits very hard physically. Annihilate and Muck also do the same. So there's like a lot of offense from this team on the doubles perspective. It's also really bulky, so like this team doesn't even really have to care too much about speed control. They can just really bulk, do damage, and then just like survive hits and keep doing damage. They can keep doing that, especially augmented by the Ninetales Aurora Veil. I would say my least favorite part of this team, or not even necessarily least favorite, but the one mod that I really don't understand as placement is that Ludicolo. Ludicolo is typically seen on rain teams, or at least, the very least, it's usually paired with some form of like prankster or fast swagger to take advantage of own tempo. I'm not really seeing so much of a use for it there, especially when you have like the Berserker as well for fake out. This team might enjoy like a redirection. Like if this team had like Ogrepon Wellspring instead of Ludicolo, this team would probably be like that much more terrifying for me. But from a Dull's perspective, the speed issues that you raised earlier could be a problem if fast threats can take out the Trick Room Setters before they get going.
Definitely. And Incog, what do you think about this team from a singles perspective?
Well, Calyrex Ice Rider, aka the Platinum Howler Machine. As you know, I once again will always reference BBO when it comes to Ubers. Is one of the most broken gosh darn mons that has a low speed stat. Now, of course, you can run Trick Room on this team, which Trick Room is a really good mode to have. It's unfortunate that Porygon 2, I'm pretty sure, lost teleport, so you can't Trick Room then teleport. But on the other hand, you have a really decent core of mons that can sweep in Trick Room. From Ursaluna to even just a Coil or even just an annoying Electros, one of the best underrated singles Pokemon out there. Yes, I said the U word. In addition, Fergraph is cool, I guess. Ludicolo's great. If you want to set up Manual Rain, go ahead, but it's also just, bulky enough with an Assault Vest to at least get the job done. Lola Ninetales is always good for Roarvale. Setting that up will definitely help this team out immensely, but it feels like it's a bit predictable each week. But should you get that up, Calyrex can go crazy, Annihilate can go crazy, even Ursaluna without Trick Room can go crazy. This team's going to be really relying on the modes of offense. And the really crazy part is Calyrex can sacrifice at least one move slot and still turn out fine. Some people might be like, oh, but I don't want to set up with that. Oh, believe me, you can and you should, and it will still get the job done because that attack set is monstrous. Overall, pretty decent team. Berserker's okay. Fergraph isn't really like a singles mon. It's just he's cool. Like I like Marty. But everything else is really good overall. I think that this team could have used maybe another special attacker, like a main special attacker, if you're going from a singles perspective, because Electros is basically mixed. Porygon 2 will likely be more defensively slotted. Ludicolo is special, Ninetales is special, and then Fergraph, if you're bringing it special, you could probably have like one more maybe. But overall, I think the team is good. I think it just will be pretty middle of the pack or upper. It's good. It's good.
For sure. And let's go and take the next team here, the Reigning Roselias. And Miss Mike, what do you think about this team from a doubles perspective?
Okay, we've gone from broken spread moves to broken terrain modes and their combos within. So from a doubles perspective, Miraidon setting electric terrain for itself and for Iron Bundle is absolutely disgusting. You've got one of, I believe, the fastest booster speed mon that has Icy Wind and decent speed control options there in the game, next to probably one of the most obnoxious special attackers ever conceived by Game Freak. I think it's a very devastating combo for doubles, and the fact that they don't even share any weaknesses that I'm pretty sure that the two of them don't share any weaknesses means that lead is just putting on a lot of pressure from the jump. You don't even have to run booster energy on bundle because you can just get this Quark Drive boost immediately. So that's terrifying. And then I really like how the team is kind of supporting that mode. Like, oh, okay, fine. If you find a way around this Iron Bundle Miraidon mode, cool. I got Ogrepon for redirection. I got Instant for just general Intimidate and Parting Shot and knockoff kind of utility. I've got Urshifu as a whole physical attacker that can do a ton of damage in a very short amount of time. I've got Corviknight for some bulky setup. I've got Mimikyu if I want to decide to go slow. I've got Riolu to do like coaching and other prankster stuff, and then Weezing is just kind of Weezing and Dugtrio kind of just fill in the gap. So I think it's another well-balanced team, very similar to the very first one.
Okay, Incog, what do you think about this team from a singles perspective?
Marquell the first with the C and B. How's it going, man? It's been a bit. I haven't spoken to you. Good team here, Miraidon, the Uber's legend, no dairy. Will definitely be very hard to compete with, and with a iron bundle at its hip, you never have to worry about running booster energy from a practical standpoint. However, the team is filled with mons that are pretty good. Urshifu, Corviknight, and Incineroar definitely filled in the backline with Ogerpon. However, then it comes back to the other mons. You see Urshifu, Corviknight, Miraidon, and Iron Bundle. Pretty much your three to four Pokemon that are coming each week. I feel like Corviknight's a great defensive mon, Urshifu's a great offensive mon, and then you have two of the better Pokemon of this format, in my humbling opinion, Miraidon and Iron Bundle. Ogerpon Cornerstone is cool. I'm not the biggest fan of it, despite it being my favorite. It's okay. Incineroar, this generation, I don't know why it's getting more and more praise each and every other week. I feel like for, despite being better in doubles than singles, it's still good with Parting Shot and Intimidate. But then, like, the other four Pokemon aren't like the greatest. You're probably never seeing Riolu as much as you think you will. You're probably never seeing Dotrio Alola. You're more likely going to see Weezy and Mimikyu interchanging certain weeks, just because you have to bring the same 6 that you bring to singles that you'd bring to doubles. So Mimikyu can definitely help out most likely, and Weezing definitely can help out a lot. But again, that could be me just spitballing. It feels like this team's a little bit more predictable, in my opinion, especially because in a format where you have to bring the same team for each format, you kind of have to design all the sets for like trying to do them for each format. So it's a little bit harder to do when you already know what you want to bring, and we can predict what could come every week. But Marcus is the person who will surprise us more than likely, so we'll see. But that's just me.
Yeah, and taking a look at this team, I think the thing that I like most about it is the speed. Like, they have a lot of really good fast threats here between Miraidon, Iron Bundle, and I think the Ogerpon is really nice to have for that speed as well. And then just has a good amount of bulk too. So we've talked a lot about like different switch-ins and offensive pressure and things like that when looking at these other teams. And I think this team also has that. So just from looking at like both singles and doubles, the amount of pressure that they can put on the team to try to check defensively might be kind of difficult. Like, it's really hard to bring your ground type in when you got Iron Bundle sitting right next to it to try to take those electric attacks from Rhydon. So I think that the team overall looks pretty strong, and should be very interesting to see how the Reigning Roselias decide to use the team for this season. So our next team, we have the Sky Strikers, and Incog, what do you think about this team from a singles perspective?
My brother Ted, how's it going, man? You doing good? I hope so. This is a good team. I'm gonna say good, like, unironically. Magearna's one of those mons that you have to ban in every singles league, because if you don't, well, I don't want to tell you this, but personally, you might lose. But Urshifu Rapid Strike is great. Latios is a fantastic mon, especially with the buffed Luster Purge. Harkonine is great. Tinglu's great. Zora Kasuinen's definitely one of those mons that you still have to look out for these days. And then you get to the last four, and it's like Pelipper's good, but you don't really have any like rain sweepers on this team, so I'm kind of like, are you enabling like Thunder Latios? Are you trying to make sure that Magearna's more covered? But then it's like, if you're trying to make sure Magearna's more covered, then just draft another like a bulky water or something else of that nature, because now you enable other people to bring potential Weather Sweeper or a Swiftswim Sweeper rather against Harkonine and Tinglu, which definitely don't want to take those hits in the rain. Serena is a great Pokemon, especially if you want to keep it in the rain and keep it from dying too much, but you need that rapid spin, which I haven't really talked too much about hazards overall, but and hazard removal, because last time I did that, I mean, I'm just saying it influenced a lot of my decisions, because some people they're not bringing hazards all the time. It's singles and doubles. Clefairy's okay, it's not a great singles mon. And then Muck, we talked about hazards, but you don't even really need hazards. He's just a bulky son of a gun. Overall, this team's real balanced. I would say that, if you had a bulky water instead of Pelipper, it might be good, but I can definitely understand if that's more of a singles-minded decision rather than a doubles-minded decision rather than a singles-minded decision, but we'll get into that. But overall, good team.
Yeah, definitely a great team. I think I want to echo the ideas about Pelipper. it looks to me like the best thing you're enabling is like more water damage from Urshifu, but that mon already hits so hard anyway. Like you don't need Pelipper's Rain to buff up that. I definitely agree with the idea of having like maybe a more solid water type, something like it's probably not possible for the tier that Pelipper's in, but something like a Milotic, that like comes in, has recover, potentially has like a pivot move to get out and get into something else. I think would serve this team a lot better, just because echo some of those ideas that Incog said about some of these mons not really wanting to be in rain at all. So that's probably like the biggest critique I have for the team, but I love the Magearna plus Latios combination. I think it's going to be really tough for teams to take on those two mons, and just puts a lot of pressure on the team. Hisuian Zorak is really nice for this team to be able to disguise some of this stuff. There are a handful of mons here that reveal their ability when they switch in, but at the same time, there's also some that don't, right? So having Hisuian Zorak come in disguised as Latios makes things kind of tough and difficult to decide how you want to play around that combination of mons. And of course, like Urshifu is a potential mon to disguise as, like definitely hard to play around those different mons because you want to use different things to check them. So. And Miss Mag, what do you think about this team from a Devil's perspective?
I really like this team from a Devil's perspective. I will start by just echoing the sentiments about Pelipper. I also agree. I don't think it's super necessary on this team. In fact, to some degree, I actually think it's a little bit of a detriment because since you just brought up the point about Hisui and Zorak and mons revealing their abilities, I think it's just one more mon that 99.9% of the time you're never running Keen Eye, so it's always going to reveal its ability. Tinglu is also in that same category for the most part, and I mean, I guess if something dies in Magearna, not rocking Soul Heart would probably be a dead giveaway, but I think that Pelipper is not really adding too much to the team. Like, if I recall correctly, Latios gets Tailwind, so you're covered on that front anyway with your major speed control options. I do like the amount of varied offense there is here. I like the fact that there are very strong and capable special attackers, as well as strong and capable physical attackers that can very easily snowball. Sarina is great for making sure that you can kind of get off your moves without having to worry about fake out or opposing priority pranksters. And then Clefairy kind of ties it all together from a doubles perspective with Friend Guard, making some of these mons take way more hits than they should. And just even offering stuff like Heal Pulse, which is absolutely disgusting next to Tinglu. Follow Me. And since it got Nightshade now, it can actually be a source of consistent damage. So now it's a really good, it's a really solid team from a Devil's perspective. I would just personally look into maybe replacing Pelipper if it's possible.
Okay. And looking at our next team here, we have the Salacian Swift. And I just kind of looking at this team overall, they just have a lot of good, like bulky and offensive mons. I think remember when I first looked at this team, there's just, it feels like there's no weak mons. Even Meowstic, right, has Prankster, so you can have like potential Prankster screens, Prankster trick, things like that to be disruptive or to help to set up your other mons. And then Persian is also like a fairly good supportive mon with Fake Out, Icy Wind, things like that. Faint even for those doubles games. So I think I like this team overall just from a bulky team that has a ton of options. And just speaking from a personal perspective, this is like the kind of team that I would want to draft. It has like all these mons can fill varied roles. They can be offensive, they can be defensive, they can be kind of mixed in terms of like breakers or all sorts of stuff, and they have some great synergy in Sun with that Groudon. So, Miss Mag, what do you think about this team from a doubles perspective?
I would have to echo your sentiments. This is also a team that I would like to draft and play with because I am a filthy multi-offense type of player, and this team has literally base that totals through the roof. Like, many of these mons will not die in one hit. Except with the exception of like legit 4 times weaknesses, which this team only has one mon that even has that, which is the Brute Bonnet, quad weak to Bug. But on the whole, from those, there's a lot of options here. There's also a lot of setup, like multiple bulk ups, multiple like things like Contrary Superpower from Enamorous, multiple nasty plots from Vector, Iron Defense. there's a lot of setup here, and Unported actually is a fairly decent redirector. Like, yeah, Rage Powder, Grass types, and, you know, Goggles are not fun for it, but, like, I don't know that many Grass types that really want to square off against this team in particular. Like, it's a pretty hard Sun team. I love the amount of different offensive, offensive lines this team can run. Like, there's a lot of, like, physical attackers, but then there's, like, some really strong special attackers, so the team isn't reliant on, like, if there's, like, an Intimidate matchup, like, you can have your Clear Amulet and then still have really strong, like, offensive options with, like, Volcanion and Raging Bolts, etc. So it's just a very likable team. It's like you said, there are no really weak links on this team, like, at all. Every mon has varied roles that it can kind of fill.
Yeah, definitely. And Incog, what do you think about this team from a singles perspective?
You know, man, I really like a lot of this team. And I would say arguably the weakest mon is the Pokemon that has to do 2 jobs every time somebody drafts it. That's right. You know him, you hate him. Fire, Water type Volcanion, everybody. And then Persian, of course, and Meowstic. But we're talking about Volcanion in a bit. But overall, team's great. I think that enabling Brute Bonnet and Raging Bolt is great with Groudon. Spectre is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. Won me my first draft league championship. So, I mean, you gotta give it up for the guy who can escalate everything and then de-escalate you by killing you. That's my boy. Overall, bulky team, really nice. I think there's a lot of good pieces here. Overall, though, you would probably be kind of running into similar problems that you might run into just generally. Volcanion can't really use water moves if sun is up because, you know, it's not like Hydro Steam where you could use it in the sun and it'd be good. Steam Eruption gets weaker in the sun, unfortunately, which you might be like, couldn't they change that? They could and should. Persian's not a mon I really envision coming too much. I can see Screens, Meowstic coming a lot, and then enabling things like Registeel to set up, Okidogi to set up, and Amorous to set up, etc., etc. You get it. Overall, definitely a top-end team. I think just because I hate, you know, I'm very biased to not liking Volcanion because it tries to do 2 jobs at once, and I really don't like doing that with a Pokemon. I'd rather have a bulky water type and then an offensive fire than trying to combine the 2. But overall, besides that, I mean, realistically, a team that I definitely would hate to fight, in my humbling opinion.
And from Sun, we go to Rain. And what do you think about this team, Miss Mag?
I figure out, how did we get all these, like, nice, perfect segues? We did the Calorexes back-to-back. Now we're doing Weathers back-to-back. It's great.
You just gotta love our coaches set us up for it, you know?
Right? From a doubles perspective, I don't think I need to give everybody watching this video the two cents about Kyogre. Kyogre's dumb. Kyogre's dumb broken. That's just what it is. It hits super hard in rain with water spouts and, like, choice specs and stuff. That's all you really need to know. Outside of that, I will say that I like how DJ has kind of rounded out this team. He got a really strong Rain Sweeper and Basque Legion male, because Last Respects is also a super balanced move. Picks up that nice fancy Archelodon with that electric shot, which, you know, doesn't have a recharge, doesn't have a charge turn in the rain. Tornadus and Sneasler are also just really good, fast options, offensively or support-wise. The Arboliva is a nice pick. He couldn't probably afford Rillaboom, I would imagine, but Arboliva being able to get terrain going to still help Sneasler get off the ground with Unburden is also very nice. And then the bottom 4 is just kind of like solid Trick Room Mon for doubles, solid Trick Room Sweeper and Rhydon for doubles, also giving Lightning Rod, which helps with, like, Kyogre, Basque Legion, and Tornadus, Intimidate from Arbostive, and then Zekrom to just nuke things on the physical side. It's a pretty well balanced team for its comp. That's all I really gotta say about it. I don't see any weak links at all.
Yeah, definitely a very strong team. Just want to bring up that Last Respects is actually banned for Basque Legion. Otherwise, this team would be so beyond broken. It's already really good, right? Like, getting that wave crash. Yeah, wave crash boosted in rain is already really solid. I mean, just in terms of the team overall, like, it's It's looking very strong. I do really love the Zekrom pairing with Kyogre. I think those two mons look very solid together. Being able to have like a very strong physical attacker and then have a very strong special attacker always makes things a lot more difficult for teams to try to handle. And just the nice mixture of physical and special offense on this team, it makes it for it just makes it really difficult for teams to be able to spec against it. And it's also going to be really hard to have speed control against this team, right? You got Tornadus with Tailwind for those doubles games, and then Tailwind can kind of work okay some of the time in singles. So yeah, I don't know, pretty cool team overall. But as for the singles side of things, what are you thinking, Cog?
You know, DJS, I've done this thing every time I've spoken about you, where I underrate your teams. I'm gonna stop doing that from now on, because you know, man, every time I speak about you, something good happens for you. And I'm not gonna lie to you, OG. Maybe I'm doing it on purpose, and then you start winning, because you know what? Every time I downplay you, you've won. So, with that being said, I'm not downplaying you this time. That does not mean I don't want you to win. I'm just saying. It's a really good team, singles-wise. Sneasler with the aforementioned Arboliva, you know, grassy terrain is going to be insane. But I also think that Rain on this team is fucking crazy too. Excuse my French. Kyogre with Tornadus, with Archaludon and Baskia Legion, that's already a mess to deal with. And you have the Trick Room mode with, you know, the Arboliva and Hatterene. Hatterene gets Trick Room, Arboliva can abuse it. Rhydon is cool, I guess. I'm not the biggest fan of Rhydon as a Trick Room sweeper. It's cool. I prefer his older brother, Rhyperior, but that's just me. Mabosstiff is the real weak link here, but even then, like, opinion here, Mabosstiff is fine. Zekrom, as you might understand, is one of those Ubers that you always have to look out for, so even if you don't go with a you know, Rain offense, you can set up on literally any turn you feel like with Zekrom, depending on the opponent, and you can tear them apart limb from limb. Overall, this team is very dangerous, and if you don't take DGS seriously, which I mean everybody does, but I'm just saying if you don't, you know, it could be over for you. I'm just saying, you know, it could be up. So I really like this team. Definitely a top team.
Yeah, for sure. And from Rain, back to Sun. And just talking about this team, it looks like it's pretty good from both sides of things. I think the part I like about it is just how much offense potential there is from the team, and coupled with some very good defensive checks. I think a really nice defensive combination of Gastrodon, Heatran, and Sylveon looks pretty cool for the team. And it's definitely got some good offensive pieces as well with Koraidon, Donleys, Necrozma, and Darkrai. I think so. Like those 6 mons, I think look very strong overall. The perhaps like unfortunate part of the team is that they don't have anything that's really abusing the sun too much for Koraidon. We've got Charizard with Solar Power. We've got Vileplume, the Chlorophyll Sweeper, but nothing that's like Photosynthesis going crazy from the team. So potential downside of the team, but there is the nice redirection option from NDD for those doubles games. But to talk more about doubles, Miss Mag, what do you think about this team?
Wait, someone pass me a Fluttermane, please. I'm begging you. Pass me a Fluttermane. But yes, no, I will agree with you to start off. Like, not having a Photosynthesis mon to really capitalize on that sun mode that I have on this team it's a downside. But at the same time, that's part of drafting in like a high-powered format to some degree. Maybe I'll see if I can work a Photosynthesis mon into this team like later on in the season. But I do like what's been presented. I think the team has a lot of strong physical. Sorry, not physical. Actually, almost every mon on this team is pretty much inherently a special attacker. But I actually think that is not so much a weakness of this team, but it is a strength, because it allows me to kind of zero in on opponents who are very likely to prep against this team. Like, I'm 95% sure everybody will want to bring Assault Vest versus this team, and I can use that kind of information to sort of my advantage. As far as the comp itself, well, I wasn't exactly responsible entirely for drafting this. But that's a little fun tidbit. I actually did this blind and had a group of friends draft this team for me. And I've spent enough time talking shit about Sunroom, so I'm very excited to just try this out for myself. It has a lot of great options from a doubles perspective. Like, indeed, he can set up terrain. He can give me like Psychic Seed modes, a lot of like Heat Wave, Spread Move Pressure, and Vileplume can actually like sweep teams if I put it under the right conditions. So, yeah, all in all, pretty solid.
And Incog, what do you think about this team from singles?
I mean, you know, Koraidon and Darkrai and Ultra Dawnwing's Necrozma, there's the name I was looking for, are all three really good Ubers. I mean, Darkrai's not an Uber today, but I mean, you know, back in his heyday he was. I mean, you know, really good Pokemon overall. I think that if there was, obviously we've said the photosynthesis and the chlorophyll comment, definitely could use more physical attackers on this team. We've gone over the main things about this team. Get it? That would be, I don't think you guys get it. I said main and like Flutterman. Anyways, my point here is that this team could definitely use another physical attacker besides Koraidon, and then like what, Darkrai if you want on SD. I don't know. I think this team inherently missing like that physicality will definitely eat it away. But the thing about it as well is that you still have to deal with Koraidon, and you still have to deal with the entirety of this special offense. People can bring whatever they want spit F sets wise. I'm telling you right now, it's not going to matter when you see a nasty pop from Darkrai, or when you start seeing a calm minding Sylveon, or even when you see Dawnwing's Necrozma, a good Pokemon in its own right, doing things that it shouldn't be doing, like Meteor Beam offense. There's so many things that this team can do, but it just has to get over the hump of, okay, once I figure out what my opponent's doing, how can I counteract that? And this team will definitely be able to do that. I love the Oricorio. Oricorio is still one of my favorite Pokemon of Gen 7 and one of my favorite Pokemon overall. Is that all Oricorio forms?
Just the electric one.
Well, seeing as though it's just the electric one, it'll still be fine. I do feel bad that you'll never get to embrace the warm hug of Hurricane because you have the sun. But overall, good team. I think, you know, we'll see how good it goes. I think the only mon that kind of is weird is like Indeedee female. It's not really a singles mon. I would even give you Vileplume more than that because of strength 7 being able to just eat hits for days.
From one terrain team to another, Sacramento Sand/. Miss Mag, what do you think about this team?
Stop doing this, man.
It's so good. How can I not?
It's too good. All right, so yes, talking about the team presented, I really like how bulk focused this team is. Like, this team is very bulk forward with King Gambit, Primarina, Araquanid, Snorlax, Reshiram. Like, there's just so much bulk there. And then it's like equally supported by like really fast offensive threats with the Mewtwo and the Kilowattrel, also adding speed control elements to it. And then you kind of have like Rillaboom to kind of wrap it all together with a little bit of grassy terrain to help heal the bulky mons. Maybe throw a grassy seed in there for an acrobatics play. You have the Iron Threads, which can do some good stuff in doubles thanks to it being able to have a booster energy. And the grassy terrain kind of helps it a little bit, you know, in terms of like not having to deal with like earthquakes and stuff. Arbok's really nice in doubles. I don't get to say that sentence very often, but it beat me in the finals of a different draft event by dodging too many rock slides. So Intimidate and its kit are like really good for doubles. I don't think it gets any like. I'm pretty sure it's like Shed Tail. I probably would have remembered that, but like just Intimidate, Glare, really can help this team get off the ground, despite the fact that a lot of its members are pretty slow. But yeah, that's what I think.
And Incog, what do you think about this team for our singles?
Oh boy, a team that I actively helped out with. Oh man, look at this. Hey man, all I'm saying is if you have a better switch in to Mewtwo and Reshiram besides the Pokemon on screen formerly known as Big Eats, aka the Gen 1 monster, aka Snorlax, listen man, good luck out there. And Araquanid's here too. Come on, bro. This team's made for me, bro. Listen, I like this team a lot from a singles perspective. I think the amount of support that you give Mewtwo and Reshiram is really important, and having something like Araquanid to set up webs for you is really good, especially taking in ground type moves for Reshiram, and then I mean in general it can't really do dark moves. That's why you have Primarina. But even then you have King Gambit, which I think is a great Pokemon for this team overall. I mean, ghost types can try and run amok. You have a Snorlax and a King Gambit. Rillaboom's great because you have terrain support, which will help you getting back HP and just overall preventing those ground moves from being so effective against Reshiram. Now, on the opposite side, though, you kind of weaken your own ground moves on Iron Treads, but maybe you just go for Ice Spinner and get rid of the terrain in general, and then go for Earthquake and other moves of your own variety. Great Pokemon, a definite underrated Pokemon in Iron Treads. I like Kilowattrel. Good Pokemon, just needs to hit Hurricane and it can get going because good Lord have mercy, I don't even know how to say this, but that Pokemon and Hurricane do not mix. Arbok's cool. I think having something that can at least have Intimidate is really dope. It's a good T-Spike absorber as well because looking at this team, while you do have Rapid Spin, it's okay, and you're probably not bringing Rapid Spin maybe like 7 times out of 10. So at least having a Mon that can at least absorb one of the hazards that can affect your team deeply is really good. Overall, bulky offense is always good offense, but you also have the ability to take advantage of other modes like Psychic Terrain modes and weather modes, or like sun mode rather, and even rain with Primarina for rain and Reshiram for sun respectively. Overall, great team. I think that it could definitely end up as one of the best teams. It just needs to work a little harder each match depending on how it goes.
Yeah, definitely. I think we haven't talked too much about cores in terms of teams, but I really like the Firewater, or I guess the Double Water Fire Grass core here, and then the Double Steel Fairy and Dragon mode. So I think the kind of combinations of those mons are pretty nice, and definitely support the team overall. The speeds I think were something that was kind of mentioned here a little bit, so I like that there's some fast options here, there's some bulk here, there's some slow options as well. So definitely looking forward to using this team throughout the season. It's going to be a lot of fun. Definitely looking forward to it. And we've talked about weather, we've talked about terrain, and we're back to weather. And looking at this team, what do you think about it, Incog?
Well, Mike, you've done it again, man. You've done it again. You've drafted a team where I have to sit here and rationalize to myself, how well does it work actually? And I think this team works really well. First and foremost, let's just go ahead and go over the obvious. Gouging Fire, Walking Wake, Fluttermane Torkoal. I don't think I need to say much else, but if I had to, because I'm legally, well, not legally, but I am obligated to, a team that hits really hard. You never have to worry about boost energy generally, unless somebody's gonna anti-weather you so much, and Mike is a really good battler, so hey, he don't got to worry about that. Overall, you have a dope team. Sun offense be damned. This team doesn't really need Sun to really activate. It's just offensively good. Banded, even without Sun, even without booster energy, like Gouging Fire is still really good. Walking Weight Choice Specs is great. And then you have Arceus. Solid, just normal Arceus. That's E-Killer Prime, by the way. That's E-Killer back in his day, bro. You're not beating that. Amoonguss is a great sponge, great defensive piece. Torkoal's a good enough defensive piece for what you need it for. Then comes the other mons. Orangru's great for doubles, and singles he's all right. Murkrow, I don't even think I want to describe how not good Murkrow is in singles, even though it's one of my favorite Pokemon. But you get off a foul player here and there, you know what I'm saying? Get off a haze, get away a sweep, you know what I'm saying? Raichu's cool. He's all right, I guess. And then Flamigo's definitely still like a good physical mon. But with all the mons in your team, I think if you had another maybe like a Spadef wall of sorts, rather than just presumptuously you're going to be using maybe Arceus more defensively in certain matches for singles, that might be better because you want to just go, if you want to just go hard offense, who's stopping you realistically? But trying to fight other offenses with your own defense is going to be a lot harder, and there's not a whole lot of defense. So we'll see how it plays out. Mike definitely still has a really good team, and he's a really good coach, so I expect big things out of him.
And Miss Mike, what do you think about this team?
I found where all the photosynthesis mons wandered off to. They wandered off to this Sun team. But I mean, it's I can't really capitalize too much on what's been said. Like, from a doubles perspective, this team is very brutal. They're hitting a lot of combo potential. The Torkoal enabling the three Paradox Mons is just kind of the tip of the iceberg. They have a really good Trick Room setter in the Oran Guru. It's very hard to disrupt Oran Guru from setting up Trick Room. Conversely, picking up the Prankster Murkrow, while it will not hold its weight probably in singles, it will very much hold its weight in doubles by giving him access to Prankster Tailwind. And then Arceus just ends up being a completely mixed bag Swiss Army knife for what you would want in like to finish off your doubles squad. So it's really strong, really powerful, strong physical and special attackers for the double set. Raichu is nice. Raichu is actually one of my favorite Pokemon in terms of like the balance between power for the utility that it gives. You won't get too much utility out of Lightning Rod, I would think specifically. It's really only just like for Murkrow, which many times just does not care, and for that Flamigo. But just tools like Charm, Eerie Impulse, Feint, Fake Out, Discharge, Nuzzle are just going to be really obnoxious to have to deal with. And then Flamigo kind of rounds out with just some nice physical offense as an additional option, and Scrappy so that as if you really needed to pressure ghost types that might want to try to revenge kill Flutter even more, they're going to have to deal with getting a close combat to the face. So this is a very solid team that Mike has managed to put together. I am terrified of it, quite honestly. But hey, we'll see what he does with it.
I don't know if I could really add any more about this team. It's pretty clear. There's Sun, you should be very scared of Sun, and there's Arceus, you should be very scared of Arceus. I do kind of like some of the defensive pieces here. I think Amoonguss is really that main one, and then Oranguru is fairly bulky. I think there's potentially a case to be made for looking for like another defensive piece to add to the team. I'm not 100% sure how I feel Murkrow is for this team. I think you could probably find something that's maybe another defensive piece that, I don't know, helps out in some way. I don't know exactly what type you'd want for another defensive option. Steel, like as much as this team is missing a steel type, I don't think you really need a steel type, and you don't really want it as your defensive option because you're trying to get something that works well with Amoonguss, just so you can take a little bit pressure off of Arceus from potentially being another defensive switch in. But honestly, this team has so much bulk already, and amongst those top 3 mons that maybe it's not that big a deal, because Gouging Fire can actually pull that job off fairly well with Morning Sun. And Burning Bulwark is nice to kind of get some burns on things to kind of reduce some physical offense from somebody. But yeah, team is pretty cool. I like a lot of the pieces that this team has, and it's going to be pretty scary to play against. And that is the end of all of the teams. We had 10 teams for this season. So the next slide that we'll go to here is going to show the top 3 teams from each of us. And so far, Incog and Miss Mac hasn't seen this yet, so there's going to be a bit of a reveal for them as well about what we think the top 3 teams are for this season. And let's go and take a look right now. So just to be clear, the top row there, those are the ones that I chose. The middle row, the first 3 there, are the ones that Miss Mag chose. And then the bottom row, the first 3 teams there, those are the ones that Incog chose. So reactions, guys, what do you think?
Well, Miss Mag, I'm really glad that we both have DGS where he's supposed to be. However, you guys both have Dun's team really high.
Yeah, Dun's team was the Kieran Black team. I think what I really liked about it was that, kind of what I mentioned earlier in the video, was how Kieran Black can struggle with steel types, but then I think that the team, in a general sense, deals with steel types so well that I think that it's really going to let Kieran Black shine. And just the offensive and defensive pieces from the team overall, I think, gives Dun a lot of good options.
You know me, man. I'm not really big on this nigga, Kieran Black. You know me, man. He's cool, I guess, but everything else is kind of like, I get, like, I'll say it like this. The other teams that you guys have are definitely, like, for example, the Jirachi team. I can't remember their name.
Salacian Jirachi? Or Salacian Swift, yeah.
Yeah, Solar Pie's team is definitely like top 5. I would say Dun's is not up there. Mike's is certainly up there, but he's like top 6. Because funny enough, if you really pulled back the curtain, I had selected, hold on, I'm going through my notes right now. I had selected actually another team for that 4th place if we had one, and it was like Ted's team, unironically, because Ted's team has the ability to do a lot of crazy things, but you can't prep for, like, I feel like in this format you can't prep for anything defensively. It's usually offense versus offense in singles right now. So to me, that's how I feel, but
Yeah.
I guess it depends on the team structure.
I definitely agree. Singles feels very like if you can out offense the opposing team like before they get to, then it kind of feels like that's how you win singles games for the most part this generation. I don't think we talked about this, but this is a no Terra League. I don't think we mentioned it, but just kind of to add that in. Yeah, we've definitely all had.
It's really good.
Yeah, we all had DJS as a top team here. Mine are in no particular order, by the way.
Mine are in order.
Yeah, yours is in order. I tried to keep it in the order that you sent me, and I think Miss Mags might also be in order as well. I'm not sure about that one.
No, it's not in any particular order, but
Okay.
I'm glad we can all agree that collectively GJS's team is absolutely
He
busted.
keeps winning until he starts folding like laundry. I can't put him lower than anything really now, man.
I know,
I've,
right?
Yeah.
I've incorrectly ranked him 2 times now. You can't do that and get away with it no more.
For real.
I think
And
this-
his team is
I think
also
this-
just good. Like, I don't know.
I think this might be the first time I've actually ranked him in a long while, actually. But yeah, for my 3 teams, like, I mean, DJS aside, like, I really was equally impressed by Mike's team just in terms of like the amount of offense it's able to put out combined with like those defensive and supportive pieces. I thought that him and DJS kind of ran similar styles of teams in terms of like how they were constructed. And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of overwhelming offense in your face from a doubles perspective, but then there's some equally very good defensive pivots and checks and supports that can come in and out week to week. And then Dunn's was kind of like in the middle. Dunn's team is just very like setup oriented, but it's got such really strong setup pieces for doubles like the Ogre Pawn Wellspring and offensive pieces like the Gold Dangle that I just thought it really earned that top spot, that top 3 really.
You know, there was a team that I had as like, I don't know, I was waffling back and forth between it and I forget who else in my top 3, but the reigning Roselia's team, the Miraidon Iron Bundle team, I'm kind of surprised not to see it somewhere in here. That one of us thought it was the top 3, because I just thought the team looked good overall. But
I think the problem is that it's good, but you know, there's a lot of factors when it comes to masters, I guess. Like, you're doing singles and doubles, and humbly, Marcus is really good at both.
oh, this isn't
but
Marcus's team.
Rainy Roselia, as you said, yeah?
No,
No, that's Tino Tori.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, Marcus's team is the Rose City.
See,
Roselia's.
y'all let me talk about him like it was Marcus earlier. Now I feel bad. Yeah, man.
It's
I'm
all
sorry,
good.
dog. Listen, you guys have similar team name. My fault, bro. But listen, team's still good. But I think the problem becomes like, you know, if I say, oh yeah, it's gonna do really well. Like, I'm not ranking it over the Milwaukee team. I think the Milwaukee team is just strictly better.
Oh,
Like,
that's
I
for
stand
sure. Yeah, no, the Milwaukee team is pretty insane. I don't know. How did I not fit that in top 3? I don't know what I was doing.
I would say that for me personally, as much as I didn't really love certain elements of that comp, just on its face, like that was probably my 4th ranked team if it was up there. I just thought Dunn's team kind of had a little bit more variety in what it could do, which I think, yes, Calyrex can do this basically the same thing every week and does that one job very well. But if there is a way to get around that, like Dunn's team is a little bit harder to sort of get around it in a similar idea, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Like, if you stop Calyrex, I guess if you stop Calyrex and Chi-Yu, like, which mon on the Milwaukee Sawsbug team is like beating you, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like they have some good pieces, but it is definitely very much like Kali Chi-Yu focused. So, yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that idea. Okay, well, we're gonna go and wrap things up here. Thank you all for joining us. If you'd like to see some more of the season, if you want to see the teams and how they're doing and how games are being played, definitely hop over to the TGR Discord. You can check out our TGR content channel. There are several coaches here that record and will be putting out videos of their games. Just off the top of my head, I think there's at least 5, so at least over half of the coaches. So you'll definitely be able to get a good amount of games, a good amount of content throughout the season. Check out how these absolutely insane teams do throughout the season. And with that, we're going to go and sign off. You guys want to say anything before we all go?
TGS, don't go losing.
For real. All right. With that, we'll go and sign off.
All I was gonna say is, can someone please trade me a Protosynthesis one?
Oh, for real. Maybe you can get your friend to give you one.
I'm accepting charity. Please trade me a Protosynthesis one.
Oh, you'd love to see it. All right, we're out of here. If you want to see some more power rankings or things from the TGR YouTube, definitely stick around, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. And we'll catch you on the next one.